Hello and welcome to the For the Fans podcast. My name is Justin Melillo. Kevin McAdams is alongside. We've got episode 16 ahead of us tonight, our second live episode that we're ever doing. Kevin, what's going on tonight?
Oh, well, I'll say this to start. Happy that Road Course Weekend was here, but it did not live up to the hype as we're normally used to. But we did have some good races, so I really can't complain too much. Life is good. Got college football starting. I know some college football fans out there, and we got to see a taste of that this week. And we got Indycar they ran this week, and we got to see a pretty good redemption story. So I think we got a lot to talk about from the motorsport side, and I think we're gonna preview some things that are gonna be pretty exciting coming to Darlington here in this Saturday and Sunday. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm finally back on a normal type of schedule right now. Didn't go to the racetrack this weekend for the first time in 5 weeks. So caught up on a little bit of sleep over the weekend and got back to my normal schedule today. You know, for the first time in a very long time, I'm not really too excited about the upcoming football season. I've never really been a college football fan to begin with, but I mean, even the regular NFL, it's just being a Giants fan, I'm not looking forward to a lot.
Oh, you don't think Daniel Jones is going to be the second coming of Jesus Christ?
I can't. This is why I don't want to deal with football this year. I didn't even buy Madden this year. Like, this is like the first time since 2010, I think, is the last time I didn't buy a Madden game. I have no interest in any type of football this year. And I really hope that it does gain my interest again, because it is my second favorite sport after motorsports, you know? And not having that in my life is kind of weird right now. But
are you doing fantasy football this year?
yeah, I'm doing fantasy football this year. I'm waiting on your payment.
Oh, well, okay. I'll get that to you soon.
Okay. So tonight we're going to talk about the Xfinity Series, which raced at Road America on Saturday. We're going to talk about the Truck Series, which raced up in Canada on Sunday. We're also going to talk some IndyCar racing. We're going to talk about one of the drivers in the Truck Series that got in a little bit of trouble recently. And we're going to also talk about the upcoming weekend, the Darlington Throwback weekend, which is coming upon us this weekend, Labor Day weekend. So we'll talk all that. We'll talk a little bit esports as well. It's hopefully going to be not too long of an episode tonight. I don't foresee us going too hard in the paint on that. But anyway, without further ado, let's get the show on the road. So our first article that we're going to go to tonight is by NBCSports.com. The writer was Daniel Mcfadden. He just pretty much summed up what happened in the Xfinity race this weekend at Road America, and like Kevin kind of alluded to before, none of the races really lived up to the hype. It was, I mean, not for nothing, I think the Xfinity race was definitely the better of the two races over the weekend, just because of, you know, the different strategies that were going on. You had Christopher Bell was up there. You had Matt DiBenedetto up there. Austin Cindric was on a different strategy than everybody else. You had Justin Allgaier, who goes off in stage one and falls a lap down because he gets stuck in the gravel trap, and then towards the end he's marching his way back towards the front. And there was definitely a lot of carnage going on as well, and a lot of people going through the grass and whatnot. But the Xfinity race, I'd say if I had to pick one of the two of the NASCAR races this weekend, I'd say the Xfinity race was the better of them. And Christopher Bell was the winner of this one, his first career road course win.
When we were talking about it the last few weeks about Christopher Bell being the complete package, and for a guy that says that he's total terror, like just horrible at the road courses, he ends up deciding to prove us all wrong and prove himself wrong and win the race. I mean, there were some stipulations and there's some events that helped him. There are a lot of cautions that came out at the right time, and a lot of opportunities. Like the fact that Allmendinger got spun by Gregson, Cindric coming in for tires, because I think I mean he obviously ended up finishing second anyway, but I think if Cindric was right there with him, he would have had a much better shot than coming through the field and gaining about 4 seconds while passing 17 guys. Actually 18 guys. He started 20th on the restart, so it ended up being just a perfect scenario for Bell to win, just because there was a lot of guys that kind of put themselves in a position where they were not up front anymore. Allmendinger had a horrible restart on the last restart. Cindric obviously pitted. Benedetto was in the same strategy as the guys that decided to pit later, and he was, I think, 7th or 8th on the last restart, and he made his way up to second before getting turned by Cindric. So the caution, I think it was like 14 to go or 13 to go, really played into his hands. If I really would have been excited to see Allmendinger give him a full shot with those last 2 laps, just because I really think he would have had something for him. But hey, Christopher Bell gets his 6th win. Hi, Jarvis. And I think that puts him solidly in the lead in terms of playoff points.
I just realized as the ticker's going on the bottom that we've got last week's results up for the Cup Series, which is fine. I didn't have a lot of time today to get the Xfinity or the Truck standings up on there, so I apologize to all the viewers on that one. But anyway, yeah, it was 14 laps to go when the second to last caution came out. That was when Bell had pitted. He came in, he took tires. DiBenedetto stayed on the track, and then both of their teammate Brandon Jones ended up blowing a tire and spreading debris all over the track. So Bell had the advantage at that point, even though DiBenedetto was leading the whole time up to that point. So DiBenedetto comes in, and they don't have that great of a pit stop. So now you got Bell in the front, you got Cindric in the front, and DiBenedetto's kind of back in like the 8th position and whatnot. And he's trying to get to the front, and he kind of overdrives into the hard braking zone. I think it's turn 5. Kind of gets into the gravel a little bit, loses all the positions that he gained back up. So, at that point, it was pretty unlikely that he was going to be getting back up to the front. But Bell ended up at the end of the race there. There was a caution with like 5 laps to go that put everybody on a different strategy. Well, not everybody. It put Cindric on a different strategy, and it was really interesting to see. I think he restarted like 20th or whatnot. And Cindric...
That's what Dale Jarrett said, at least, because he was way back there.
He definitely was way back there, and he was just cutting through the field. I know they were... And Cindric said it in his interview. He was cutting through the field, and people were just like dying in front of him and going off course and wrecking, and Allmendinger was one of them. Allmendinger ended up getting contact with Gregson, and he goes off, and Cindric goes by. He had to slow up a little bit, but the tires definitely helped him get up there. And then on the last lap, it's Bell in the lead. DiBenedetto finally works his way up to second, and Cindric's in third. And it was so frustrating for the longest time, because coming to the checkers, you see DiBenedetto in the gravel pit in the tire barrier, and you see Cindric going by in second and Bell going on to win the race, and there's like no replay of what happened to Benedetto. He goes from second to like 27th, and like nobody knows what happened. Given Cindric's reputation over the years, a lot of people, myself included, were like,
yeah, same.
Cindric turned him. That's what everybody was thinking, is that Cindric had the faster car and he didn't care that DiBenedetto was there, and Cindric goes in there and turns it. But that wasn't the case, and Cindric and DiBenedetto both confirmed this in their post-race interviews. DiBenedetto was on the verge of tears. Like last week, he was on the verge of tears for losing and almost winning at Bristol, and this week he's on the verge of tears because he admits to making one of the biggest mistakes of his life, of his career, in just I guess he wheel hopped and got into the marbles and just overdrove the final corner of the race and gave away a second place finish, gave away even a possibly third place finish if Cindric were to get around him. and junked the car into the marbles. It was, I still wish we would have seen a replay on it. It's, I don't understand why NBC, that's their only race of the weekend. They should definitely have the resources out there to be able to cover that part. And as far as the NASCAR is concerned, they did have the IMSA and they did have the IndyCar that weekend. So, but they should have dedicated cameras for stuff like that to catch it. And it was frustrating to never see an angle on it. But, and my apologies first and foremost to Austin Cindric for thinking that way. But I mean, like I said, his reputation kind of precedes him on that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really blame yourself for that, because I mean, he's had that reputation for a few years now. I mean, he's been that way even in other series like IMSA. So it's not like this is something that's brand new. So you really hate to see DiBenedetto put himself in a position like that, because I mean, we've talked about it, and they even talked about it today on NBC America. He's driving for his livelihood, for a career ride. So I thought he ran a great race, 9 out of 10 performance. If he finished second, a lot of people would have been like, that's a fantastic result, all things considered, where he started on that last restart. So besides that, I mean, if I'm an owner and I see that performance today, road course racing is tough. It's really, really difficult, and talent does come into play. I mean, Michael McDowell won a race here, and he's a road specialist, and of course he was in a good ride when he did it, but I mean, it takes genuine skill to win here, especially when braking is like 90% of the way this track works. I mean, it's full-on straightaways and then hard brakes, and then you set yourself up for another long straightaway and then more hard brakes. So, I mean, you hate to see it. You hate to see it. But honestly, like, besides the few, like, the pit strategy is always fun at these road courses. So, I mean, I can't complain about the race. I mean, and I'm happy to see Christopher Bell finally pull a road course win off after basically finishing second in 2 of them. So, he had a fantastic run during this 3-week stretch of road courses. And, I mean, he's got all the momentum right now going into the playoffs. Reddick did pretty well in this race in terms of staying up front for the most part. And then Custer had he flew through the dirt. I think it was in turn 2, whatever that second right-hander is. He flew through the dirt in there. So, I mean, he had his problems. But Briscoe got another playoff point. I think it was in stage 1 or 2. Honestly, a lot of guys ended up doing pretty well today or on Saturday. And honestly, we're starting to get to the nitty-gritty. Justin Allgaier had his problems. Noah Gregson. I still haven't seen a good replay of the wreck between him and Allmendinger. I think Allmendinger came down, but I don't know for sure. I don't know what he was doing. But like I said, I haven't seen a full-on definitive replay as far as that wreck is concerned. But yeah, I do have a quick tangent because I got a Facebook message from somebody, and they're asking a request. It will be our first guest on the FTF podcast. Blake Reynolds, the iRacing regular season series champion, is requesting to be on the show.
Oh wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, I got no problem with it.
All right. Let's talk trucks. After we're done with Xfinity, I'll let him know that he can come on. I'll get him on here, and we'll join him in. I think this is going to be the first step to a more X-rated podcast, because he's we all get pretty excited. I think it's going to get pretty fun.
All right, sounds like a plan to me. Go off the cuff a little bit, bring in maybe a couple more viewers that way. So just one last point that I wanted to make on the Xfinity. We had Christopher Bell picking up his 6th win of the season there, and I remember what I wanted to say. The whole Cole Custer thing in turn 2. Now, my dad is not a motorsports fan. He doesn't watch racing at all. He doesn't really, care at all about any of it. But he ended up being on the couch next to me on Saturday, and it was like the most animated I ever seen him get while watching a race. The Custer goes off and he starts mowing down the billboard and is like, wow, holy crap, I can't believe, wow, he must really not like that advertising or something. They must be his competition or something. And it was a funny quip from my father, and I don't get a lot of that from him with watching motorsports, other than he's not a fan. So just thought I'd share that. He had billboard like stuck in his radiator, and it was amazing that he even came back to finish in the top 10 after all that was said and done. But well,
I've seen that stuff before. I forget. I think there was a race at I think Sonoma or something like that for IMSA, and something like that happened, except it got stuck on the front end, and they actually had to remove it during a pit stop, and they made a huge deal of it, and they had a huge laugh about it in the commentator booth. But it's not it happened at the Roval last year too, during the Xfinity Cup weekend. So I mean, it's not like the first time it's happened. So yeah, that was pretty funny.
Yeah, it's definitely, it was a cool moment with my dad. But we'll move on to our Sunday race at the Truck Series. Or do we have a guest now?
We have a guest, but we can talk about trucks. Blake! We have Blake Reynolds. We have one of the most famous people in the sim racing world. Blake, how are you, buddy?
I'm good, Kevin. How are you guys?
So, real quick, we don't have an official rating on this. We try not to say, like, the F word, but I think eventually I'm just going to say, like, fuck it.
Is this PG-13?
It's PG-13, so we can get, like, maybe, like, one F-bomb in half an hour.
Kevin.
Yeah, so we can kind of do what we need to do. But I don't know if you've been listening, but we just talked about Xfinity. Do you have any thoughts about Xfinity this week at Road America?
I enjoyed it. It was a little less exciting than in years past, and also the race felt a little shorter. I'm not really sure. Maybe I'm just a little older, and I just kind of things pass faster. But I don't know. I was okay with the winner. I was okay with everybody finished, except for the 18. I felt he should have at least got third. I mean, he shouldn't have junked it like that, but I don't know. Things happen.
I think maybe the race being quicker might have to do with lesser cautions this year. It definitely didn't feel like they were doing too much to bring out the caution this year, and I don't know. Maybe
I do think this race was longer at one point. I think it was 50 or 60 laps when they first started going here, because I do remember it being a 200-mile race. Now it's 180.
Yeah. One thing I noticed, and I noticed it with Bell going through the carousel. I think the reason there's less like crashes or just like spinning out, I think a lot of the drivers run a steering ratio or steering box closer to that of a actual road car. Because, for instance, when AJ and Gregson got together at a turn one, they were banging, they were sideways, and Gregson, I thought he was going to wreck it on entry, but he saved it. And I don't know, in years past, I felt like that would have been a wheel hop spin, but I don't know. I just thought that maybe they're running a shorter box.
That makes sense. So I did look at Racing Reference. They used to run 200 miles here until 2015. They changed it from 50 laps, 200 miles, to 45 laps, 180 miles, which, I mean, the way these cautions can run, that's an extra 30 minutes sometimes on these races. So that makes a ton of sense why it seems shorter. But, I mean, I enjoyed the race. Did you watch, we're about to cover trucks. Did you watch any of the Mossport race?
I did. I watched the whole thing.
All right. Well, Justin, let's start covering it. Let's go ahead and pull up the article, and we'll kick-start this puppy.
Sure. Yeah, Brett Moffitt was the winner in Canada over the weekend on Sunday afternoon. Moffitt won his second race in a row, and is the only person to win a race so far in the 2019 playoffs. He led 45 of the 64 laps on Sunday. And like I said, this race was not my favorite. It was a little bit dry. We didn't get that end of the race, kind of excitement that you're used to getting at Mossport. You're used to like coming down to the line, off the final corner, just absolute mayhem. We've had it, I think, 4 of the 6 races here in previous years, and then even the races before that have had something happen on the last lap, like when Kaz Gralla got spun out by Austin Cindric, or when I think it was Tagliani blew his gearbox and Eric Jones ended up winning. So it's like something happens every year here, and you're kind of waiting for it to happen. And this year, it almost happened, because coming to 2 to go, Harrison Burton ends up blowing up, and he's spewing smoke everywhere. And you're thinking, this is it. They're going to get all back together. They're going to have a crazy restart. Something's going to happen to Moffitt. Someone crazy is going to win today, and it just didn't happen. Moffitt won by, a hell of a margin, and went on to win his second race in a row, like I said. But otherwise, I mean, it was still a good race nonetheless. It was there was some parts with the pit strategy and the different parts. Like, for example, like Harrison Rhodes. Ben Rhodes was leading at one point because of the different pit strategy that put him up front. And then they had a caution at some point that put Brett Moffitt back up to the lead. And he was like the only playoff driver to pit. Everybody else had stayed out trying to get playoff points or extra bonus points or whatnot. That's how Ross Chastain ended up winning the second stage. And it ended up being the right strategy, what Moffitt and a bunch of others did to pit there under that last caution instead of waiting for the stage end. And that's pretty much what won Brett Moffitt this race.
Yeah, I think I'm the odd man out on this one. I'm playing third wheel on this date here. I actually didn't watch this race. I was at work, and unfortunately, in the world of phone sales, you can't just pull out your phone and start watching the truck race all the time. So I caught very, very condensed clips of the race. I know that Moffitt pretty much dominated it. I know Gilliland showed his lack of talent and threw it into the fence. I think it was like lap 5 or 6, really early in the race. And then I saw Enfinger getting turned by Johnny Sauter, proving that he's once. It's so funny, like. I remember putting up a poll in Sim Racers Garage, which is a group of about a couple hundred of us sim racers throughout the years, and I put in a poll that said, who would you rather not race against, or who's a harder driver to deal with on the track? And I put Ryan Newman and Johnny Sauter, and it was right after Iowa. And, of course, everyone put Sauter because, Newman just races really hard. You really can't do anything. And then I reintroduced it again during the Bristol debacle, and everyone's like, I'll change my vote back to Newman. Well, here comes Johnny Sauter proving that he's a huge dick and wrecks his own teammate. So, but Blake, I know you said that you watched the whole race, and you're one of the people, at least on iRacing, that really kills it on the road course. So I'm sure. These guys use the iRacing side to prepare, but what did you see during this race that really stuck out to you?
Something that stuck out to me, it actually happened with Brett and Moffitt. They were talking about it early in the race. They said they unloaded bad, and their truck just was terrible. So they ended up moving the truck arm up. Now, typically on a road course, you run bottom, but that's kind of interesting to hear that they raised their truck arm and then their truck was that good. I don't know, that just kind of blew me away. The race wasn't really all that exciting to me, other than like Todd Gilliland and then the random like 60-year-old who paid for a truck ride spinning out because they instead of going like second to third, they went second to first. That happened like twice, I think. It really wasn't all that exciting. The battle with I was cheering on Chastain on that last run. He was coming, but I think he blew up his tires, and he made a move around the outside of Moss Corner, which is the slow hairpin, the right-hander, and he lost a lot of spots. I think mostly because he was going around Austin Hill, and Austin Hill races are really hard. So, yeah, I just didn't think it was all that exciting.
I think a lot of people. I mean, we just kind of set the whole entire pace of this discussion. I mean, altogether this year, road racing has been I wouldn't say
boring.
bad. I would say what it used to be for us. It was just another race on the schedule. Oh, there's specialists. You'll see the same 5 or 6 guys up front, and they'll get spread out, and maybe something crazy will happen, and we'll call it a day. I mean, I honestly think we do get spoiled sometimes by the way these races turn out. Obviously, last year with the Roval, with Johnson and Truex wrecking on the final stretch there in the final chicane, and then of course, however many, he had a ton of races at Watkins Glen, just being absolute banger every single year. But I mean, this is what road racing is. I mean, for the most part, it is not photo finishes every single year, you know. And I mean, if you watch actual conventional road racing, GT3 racing, World Endurance Racing, IMSA here in the States, it's pretty much, I mean, it's in their long races and they get pretty spread out. So I mean, for the most part, it was just a run-of-the-mill race. Moffitt had the right truck and he had the right strategy, and he straight up destroyed everybody. And honestly, that's what I think a lot of us as race fans, we want to see the best guy win. We want to see the best strategy win. Sometimes it ends up being the same guy with the same strategy. That's the best one, have the best, in this case, the best truck. So, I mean, it was definitely, just looking at the highlights, it was only a 5-minute long video, I'm thinking, and I watched an Xfinity highlight video just in case I missed anything, and that was about 20 minutes. So I was just right there. It's clear cut that the Mossport Canadian Tire Motorsports Park race just was not as exhilarating as the Xfinity race. And I don't know if anyone, Justin, if you got to the bottom of, do they normally run the Xfinity race on Sunday, and why did you figure out if they did they change it for a reason or what?
I didn't get to the bottom of it, but I can actually take a look here. Looking at past races, I'm looking at the Truck Series races at CTMP, and let's see. So they ran on Sunday last year, and they also ran on Sunday the year before. So it looks like it's usually what happens is that the truck race runs on Sunday. Now let's see.
Has it always been its own off week?
That is normal. Yeah, I think the road courses have been on the off weeks. I remember going to college back in like 2010, 2011. The weekend that I would go up and get dropped off by my parents, that was the Road America weekend, and there was no cup racing going on. So I do remember that. It's usually that coincides. That's usually how it is. Last year it was on Saturday. And I'll go back to
I checked 2016 because they had back-to-back year, or it was the same year.
I've always remembered on Saturdays because in years past, like 2014, 15, 16, I typically go on a family trip, and usually, we leave that Saturday, and I just recall many times listening to the race on Sirius XM, and I don't know, that Saturday's usually the only day that we travel, so I had always thought it was just on Saturday.
I don't know why we all, I remember me and Ryan Naraki were talking about it, and we were like, I thought this race was always on Sunday. I guess we were wrong, because I just had that feeling that it ran, because, I mean, you even think of it from a logical standpoint, it's the second-tier series, why wouldn't they run it on Sunday? So I don't know. Did they run IMSA here this week? Did they run IMSA here? I'm just trying to figure it out.
No, they ran Trans Am though.
Oh, okay.
IMSA ran not that long ago.
They ran
a month ago.
They ran at Virginia. They ran at VIR for the GT stuff for GTLM, and I think they did something with the prototype challenge there. So I don't know, but I wanted to bring that up just because I swore to God that I really thought they ran Sundays just because it seemed like it made sense. So I don't know. I digress. That was just something I wanted to bring up.
And actually, I have a question for you guys' podcast here. It's for the fans. I know that's what it's called. Is this a NASCAR? I mean, is this titled as a NASCAR-centered podcast? I know that's mostly what you talk about, but have you thought about covering IMSA, IndyCar, stuff like that?
I mean, we did last week a little bit, just because of the whole Takuma Sato wreck that he caused, or that's what everyone's saying. So I mean, we have covered things like the Indy 500, but for the most part, hi Gypsy, yes, I hear you. We for the most part cover NASCAR first, and if there's anything huge that happens outside of NASCAR, we do cover it.
Did you watch the IndyCar race this weekend? It was a
I
pretty
did.
good one.
I did.
Yeah. Did you, Justin?
I did as well, and it was actually on our list of topics for this weekend.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, we can talk
Go
about
ahead.
that.
Go ahead.
Yeah, we can talk about that here in a second. There's one more race, right, for the playoffs for trucks.
For
Yeah.
trucks.
They're going to have one more race to go in the round of 8. It's going to be at Las Vegas Motor Speedway. Right now, the only person locked in is Brett Moffitt. And let's see here, the driver
I think
standings.
it's Ross, 28 on the cut. He's in second.
Yeah, I think Ross is going to get in. I don't think unless he has a catastrophic failure, I think he's going to be pretty much in.
But it is tight everywhere else. If you look, 3rd through 7th is only separated by 6 points. So if Friesen has a misstep, if Hill,
if Ankrum wins, that would just be awesome.
yeah, if Ankrum wins, I mean, Angram's only 12 points out. He doesn't have to win. He could stage point. He could outrun everybody else. It definitely, it's really tight from 3rd to 7th and even from 3rd to 8th. So definitely nobody's out of it as it stands. Ross definitely has the best chance going forward, but even he could have an issue like he had what was it at Gateway where Sauter ran into the side of the truck and took him out. So anything can happen in these races. And
Ross won Gateway.
was it Gateway or am I mistaken here?
I don't know. I thought it was Bristol, maybe.
Oh, you know what it was? It was Michigan.
Michigan
Is where that
Yeah,
happened. He was dominating at the beginning, and then
he got wrecked in the pits.
yeah, they had the incident in the pits. That's right. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to. They're going to take a couple weeks off before they go to Las Vegas. So this weekend, Cup and Xfinity at Darlington. The weekend after that is Las Vegas. So, or no, it's Indy. What am I thinking of? I'm trying to mesh the FTF NR 2003 league together with real life right now, and we already did Indy weeks ago. Indy's coming after Darlington on the
For Cup and Xfinity.
right.
Yeah.
So there's still that's 2 weeks off, and then I think does everybody get back together for Las Vegas, or all three running at Vegas?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think that is right.
That's a really cool weekend now. I really like that weekend. The fact that all three are together. I think they are in the spring. Am I wrong on that?
I want to say yeah, just because.
Actually, I think Trucks don't. Xfinity does. Because Trucks has that month break.
Right.
Yeah, but I think they run it. Don't they? They ran it this year. It's right here. Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, they
Who
ran
won?
it. Chastain? No. Who did win? I can't remember.
Probably Moffitt.
Click the Vegas results real quick, Justin, because I use the stream to see what the hell I'm doing.
Kyle Busch won.
Kyle Busch won. Okay,
Oh,
let's see. Oh, that's right. He won a bunch to start the year.
He won
That's okay.
five races. He won five. He went 5 for 5.
Yeah.
That's why it's forgettable.
All right. Well, anyway, got one more race left in trucks. We've talked about it ad nauseum since we started this podcast. The Truck Series has been by far the most compelling playoffs format and playoff implication scenario out of any series. So we'll definitely tune into that in 2-3 weeks for the round of it goes down to round of
6.
6. So yeah, but like Blake suggested, let's talk Gateway for IndyCar, because you want to talk about a redemption story. We talked about the whole huge wreck at Pocono. We kind of discussed if they should go back to Pocono. I think I'm in the minority when I say if Indy's okay, then Pocono's okay in my book. So, but yeah, what a story with Takuma Sato winning. And I honestly thought this race was fantastic for what it is. These races are, for the most part, these short track, intermediate track races at the flat tracks can be really, really boring because the aero push, but it was like that for the most part. But it was actually a really good race.
This was one of the best races of the weekend. It was definitely the best one that I watched from start to finish, and it was redemption for Takuma Sato. He was on blast for a full week for why would he make that move? Why would he do that? Why? Everybody was like scratching their heads why he was so aggressive at the beginning and the incident that happened, and he was very adamant that he didn't feel like he caused anything. He felt like it was just a racing incident, and that's how it ended up. He ended up getting a penalty from it last week at Pocono. So everybody's like got this negative connotation on Takuma Sato coming into this race at Gateway, and you really wouldn't think that he would even be a player in the race. I mean, you look at most of the event, and he wasn't really towards the front. It was only towards the end where he ended up getting up there due to staying out and staying on the lead lap when the final caution ended up coming out. And it was him and 4 other cars that had stayed out, and they were able to stay on the lead lap. A bunch of other cars took the wave around, so they were on like older tires. For the most part, this race was the Santino Ferrucci show. He's a rookie. He comes from the Formula One ranks. He got kicked out of there for his bad behavior, and now he's over here in IndyCar. There's been a lot of hate for this kid, and I honestly don't see it. Like, yeah, he's a bratty kid from time to time. What he did to get kicked out of his program in the Formula One feeder series is, it's kind of shitty. It was like a temper tantrum or something, and he got what he deserved with that. But now he's over here and he's making a name for himself over in IndyCar, and he's never really raced on ovals before, and now he's over here. He was impressive at Indy. He was impressive at Pocono, and he was very impressive at Gateway. He led a lot of laps, and had the cautions fallen his way, he might have been the winner on Saturday night. But it was Takuma Sato in a photo finish with Ed Carpenter. Just the whole race, the whole event was absolutely spectacular.
Mm-hmm. I saw a stat that that might be the oldest podium in IndyCar history.
I wouldn't doubt it.
It's like an average age of like 41 or 42 years old.
Yeah,
or something like
it was Takuma, Ed, and then Kanaan. Very old drivers. But yeah, I love the race. And on Santino, it's almost like you could compare him to Kyle Busch. He does some of the dumbest things, says some of the dumbest stuff. But he always proves himself on track, and I've kind of felt that way with Ferrucci too. He was impressive with Haas and their development program. He was impressive in Formula 2 for the team he was on. He was basically on the Rick Ware Racing of Formula 2, and he was still getting points. His teammate on the other hand was struggling, and that's the one he got in trouble with. But he's been very impressive on the ovals, surprisingly, IndyCar, and he had never raced oval before until this year. Well,
I mean, he's definitely aggressive. I mean, he was the only guy that was consistently passing people. I mean, towards the end of that race, if he didn't push it too much and get into the marbles, he made a really ballsy move on Newgarden a couple times. And I think if he had gotten around, I think it was who was it, Carpenter or Kanaan, one of the two. And then he just pushed it way too high, and then he lost touch with the front. Yeah, because Carpenter got around Kanaan, and then Kanaan, which I think if Carpenter got around Kanaan sooner, then man, we would have had a really solid race for the win. We already did. I mean, we would have seen the last lap pass for the win instead of a really close photo finish. But he's someone I didn't even really know up until this whole controversy of him kind of being a spoiled brat and saying some really abhorrent things and getting kicked out of his, I think it was a Formula 2 ride.
Yeah, it's Formula 2.
Yeah, so I didn't really know much about him, and then I see that he's showing up in IndyCar for what does he drive for, Dale Coyne, and I mean he's putting in work and he's doing things that, I mean, even Sebastian Bourdais, who's been in the series for a long time, he's basically playing. He was playing second fiddle on Saturday night. I mean, he was running behind him for a good part of, I think it was one of the third or fourth run of the race, and they were just kind of chilling. And I mean, there was a point where Ferrucci was about 8 seconds ahead of the field. So, I mean, the guy has talent, and I think barring a badly timed caution, he would have straight up dominated the finish, and we wouldn't have even had this redemption story of Takuma Sato. So, I mean, he's incredibly impressive, and I think the comparison of Kyle Busch is pretty good. I think if he can get in top equipment, I mean, the way IndyCar is, it's not a huge discrepancy between teams like it is in Cup, but man, he's been really impressive this year.
It was he led the most laps on Saturday night, 97 laps. He was making those passes, he was making those moves. I think if he would have gotten around Kanaan there, that he might have been in position to maybe take it away from Takuma. But Sato only had to lead what? He led
He had the last 60 laps or so.
Oh yeah, he led the last stint of it because of the caution. But once he got the lead, I mean, Sato is one of those drivers where you get him in position, he'll take full advantage of it. We saw it earlier this year. I forget at the track, but it was at one of the road courses. It was the same type of situation where Sato just ended up using the strategy and putting himself in the position to take the lead. And once he's in the lead, it's like he knows what to do.
Barber this year. I wonder if it was that race.
I think that's what it was, and he did it at Indianapolis when he won the Indy 500. You know, he's not driving the best equipment by far. He's not. It's, you know, definitely mid-pack equipment, but he's making it work, and he's now got 5 career victories in the series. It's his first year with multiple victories in a season. You know, he's old. Like you said, it's the oldest podium possibly with him and Carpenter Kanaan. They're definitely not getting any younger. They're definitely not going to be in the sport for too much longer. You might, you know, not think that they would be, but it was definitely good to see, because I feel like he did take a lot of crap last week. Yeah, it was aggressive, but I mean, that's what they do. They're race car drivers. They're supposed to be aggressive, and they're supposed to make moves and go to the front. And, you know, he may get a bad rap for it, but, you know, nobody got injured in that incident, thankfully. And everybody moved on to this week, and we had a great race at Gateway. The stands were packed. It was really good to see everything that went down in Gateway this weekend.
Real quick, during our schedule making silly season for 2021, I think I was the only one out of the two of us that put Gateway on our Cup schedule. Blake, if it were you, because we did a whole schedule thing for 2021, because there's all these contracts are wide open for 2021, would you put Gateway on your radar for Cup or maybe the other companion series?
I'm not too much of a fan of Gateway, to be honest. I just something about that track is just like, there have been some good races there, but there's also been a lot of bad races there. I don't know if you guys can agree. Oh, on my phone. I don't know if you guys can agree with me on that, but I never would have thought that race or that track would be on the Cup schedule. I've always considered putting something like Mid Ohio or Road America first, or you know, after the NBC iRacing race, I'd put Iowa on there definitely.
Oh yeah, we both did for ours. I mean, Iowa, The only thing I have against Iowa, and we talked about it, I think we talked about it the first time they went there this year. Apparently, they have this stipulation where you can't bring outside food and beverage, which is just the most like insane rule I've ever heard of. And this is a track that's owned by NASCAR, so I thought that was just insane. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where for me, it's a different track. Worldwide Technology. I'm just thinking of it from a logistics standpoint. Worldwide Technology is investing in the sport with Petty, and of course in this track as a whole. And they definitely have the grandstand capacity to fill it to 50, 60,000. I think they have a pretty high grandstand capacity. And one thing that this series needs at this point is a variety of tracks. And honestly, I thought the truck race this year was really good. And it's a unique configuration. It's honestly, in my opinion, something that we just need to get different tracks on the schedule. I hate the idea of like a Texas being on there twice or Kansas being on there twice. I would love to see the market of Kansas go from there once and bring it to this other area that's pretty close. I mean, it's really close to St. Louis. So, I mean, I think from a logistics standpoint, it's a no-brainer. But I just was curious on your thoughts about it.
Whoops, sorry, I had my microphone muted there. I was trying to, I was playing the video of our schedule for anybody who's watching, just so they can revisit what we had there. Yeah, you had Gateway, I didn't. I really didn't have a lot of new. I didn't really have a lot of the new tracks. I had, some pretty basic stuff there, and you kind of went a little bit harder in that, but we were pretty close on a lot of that. So anyway, though, I like Gateway, honestly, but I'm kind of with Blake on this one. I don't think it's like that great of a track. The only thing I can honestly remember from the earlier years of Gateway is Matt Crafton like demolishing people, like restart after restart, and I feel like it would just set itself up for something like that in the Cup Series if they get a lot of late race restarts. And that's
Didn't they have a really big bunch of like crashes during green white checkers? Like it was like the era of the unlimited green white checkers, and they wrecked a bunch of times in a row.
Yeah, that's when the trucks race during the day, right?
I believe
think
so.
it was a
Yeah.
night race. I think it was a night race here.
Yeah, I remember like Todd Bodine, Matt Crafton were all up there. Maybe Johnny Sauter was in it.
Rick Crawford was in there because I remember he almost flipped.
Yeah. Whenever I think of Gateway, though, I always think of the 2010 Edwards versus Keselowski.
Yeah, I remember that one. That was where he almost killed his boy.
Hardest hits I've ever seen on the front stretch. When I think it might have been whoever was driving the 6, Trevor or Ricky, just plowed into Brad on the inside there.
It was definitely one of the bigger crashes that I've ever seen, and yeah, we got that famous quote from his father Bob, and he ain't gonna kill my boy. So, it's I don't know. Gateway is one of those tracks where I think it works for the Truck Series. Maybe the Xfinity Series could go back there, but I don't know if I'd put it on the Cup schedule. But I don't know. You guys want to talk about some iRacing stuff? You guys want to talk about some throwback schemes? I'll leave it in both of your hands.
We can talk about old Blake and him winning the regular season championship that for some reason doesn't matter in iRacing. But hey, they ran at Bristol, so I mean that was a fun race to watch personally. So we can
It
talk
was
about
a
that.
fun race. That was one of the most fun races I've ever driven. Like, I didn't think... I mean, everyone thought going in, this race is going to be a wreck fest. And
That's
for
what I
some
thought.
reason, it wasn't. I mean, in the back, I don't know, it's always the same people in the back. And I can't really pinpoint it, and I won't say, but it's the same people every week in the back at about 25th to 32nd range. that just caused the cautions, unless there's hard racing up front and maybe there's netcode up front. But that was where most of the crashes were, and then it would lead to the leader of the race sometimes, even though there wasn't a caution, having to avoid the crash and losing the lead, like what happened in the last run with Casey Kerwin and Zach Novak.
Well, I mean, who was it? Nathan Lyon, your unofficial teammate,
Yeah, he
ended
got
up.
hit on a straightaway by a lap car
Yeah,
and drifted, and hit the pit exit cone and drifted right back to the bottom racing line and kept going.
it was a wild race. I mean, I watched it from my base. Oh my gosh, this cat! First Jarvis, now I have a cat. I watched it pretty much the whole from flag to flag, and Sean Butler, my roommate and fellow sim racing compadre, we had the race on what is it, Race Spot or the Esports Network for iRacing on the big screen. I had the spectator cam on here with the triple monitors, but then I also put the same broadcast on one of them just so I can keep an eye on it. I was on full on sim racing nerd mode watching it because I mean for the most part the peak races end up being way more entertaining just because the field is closer. There's actual comers and goers. The dirty area isn't as bad. So, I mean, I thought the race was awesome, and I mean, the bottom line actually worked for some parts of the race. So I definitely enjoyed it. I enjoyed watching it. I was a little concerned with your performance, Blake, at least in the first half, because I thought you were stuck in like that 18th to 22nd position, but you ended up being fourth at the end. I was like, where the hell did he come from? So it was fun to watch. It was awesome to see Casey get his first win. I thought that was awesome, the way he got stuck in traffic, had to avoid incidents, lose the lead, and then come back and pass Leahy clean. I think it was Leahy. No, it was Novak. Yeah, pass Novak clean to win his first win. So it was completely deserved, completely earned. And then, of course, he has his Twitch stream, and everyone's freaking out. And he has like 600 people watching, and he's losing his mind. And it was just a cool thing to see live.
I don't know if you guys saw, but NASCAR asked Casey if they could use his entire Twitch VOD and upload it to the NASCAR YouTube channel, and they did.
No way, really?
Yeah,
Look
yeah,
at it
you
right
can go
now.
look. The entire VOD, the full 2-hour one.
Wow, I'm gonna look that up right now.
That's pretty cool, and it really is cool to see that this year the giant step that NASCAR's taken in embracing you guys in the peak antifreeze series, because you guys this is your first season, right? This is your first season running in the big series, right, Blake?
This is my third
series.
This is my first where I've been competitive-ish.
Okay.
2017, my rookie year, I was kind of competitive, but I got in a lot of incidents, and I got suspended for a couple races, and that kind of held me back in the point standings. But I had the results to show that I was kind of where I was at. And then last year, I'm sure most people who probably listen to this play iRacing, I guess, and I mean, most people probably know about the monster truck thing. With the setups, it was just a bad time.
Yeah. The setups were just all screwed up.
Yeah, it was like we were setting up cars for NASCAR Heat. Like, it was that bad. And I just was not good. I could not drive a car that drove so unrealistically. This year, especially since we just got when they updated it, what was it, April or something, we got the most up-to-date physics we've ever gotten for a cup package. And this package, I would say drives fairly similarly, but we're all in the same equipment. And there is aero wash, but I don't think it's as bad as real life. It's still bad enough
definitely not.
to where we have to run a different line. But yeah, like Kevin said, the racing, just because of all that, it just makes it a lot closer.
I got
Look
you.
at Michigan. I mean, Michigan was just absolutely insane. And you compare it to, I mean, besides the last 20 laps where Keegan just absolutely just drove away. I'm still trying to figure that one out even to this day. I mean, you guys are on top of each other for the most part. barring maybe the top 5 pulls out, like at Kansas and stuff
yeah.
like that. I mean, you guys are all over each other, and it's like, I mean, I've run NIS fixed, and I've run A fixed. Like, I mean, they ran Indianapolis up until earlier today in the A car, which is the Cup car for those who don't understand the iRacing jargon. And the aero push is definitely real. It sucks. But man, I can't imagine what they're going to feel in a week or so for the real Cup Series. I think that race is going to be an absolute shit show. I think it's going to be one of the worst races that NASCAR has ever put on, and that's including the 2008 Brickyard 400. So, but I mean, you guys go to Darlington tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, you guys are going back to back for the first time in a long time. And I'm sure it's going to play a factor there. What are you guys expecting in that race tomorrow?
Yeah, I just ran a public race. It's the first one of the week. It's the Class A Open at a bunch. Like the entire field was pretty much peak drivers, and nobody actually noticed. But for some reason, A opens at night, and the peak race is at 2:00 in sim time. And for some reason, the A Open servers are at 8:00. So pretty much, like, other than like racecraft, I didn't really gain anything from that race. But I will say, what's a lot of fun because of the downforce package we have now and the slower end of the straightaway speeds. I was actually making moves into turn one. I was 2 lanes below the dash white line, and I was pulling sliders.
It's funny. We ran our schedule for FTF for our NR03 league is a little skewed because we want to let our drivers run or watch the races like Darlington this week. So we pushed some stuff around. We moved the Indy race to like 3 or 4 weeks ago, and we ran Darlington last night. And it was the same predicament for us. We were doing about maybe 160 going into turn 1. And I mean, you could go a lane and a half below the dotted line and really make some moves. And the way we had it set up, the high line in 3 and 4, like right up against the wall was the way to go. So to pass people, you pretty much had to dive it in low and then slide up in front of somebody. And unfortunately, it brought a bunch of cautions. But I mean, I think that's what you're going to have to see, or you're going to have to do to pass people in 3 and 4 and in 1 and 2. Like just absolutely sail in there and get in front of them and get them in your wake and pass them that way. I wouldn't surprise it wouldn't surprise me if that's how you have to do it tomorrow night. It wouldn't surprise me if that's what you have to do for NIS fix. So I mean, it's going to be a good week. I really don't think this package is going to be that fun. From a like by yourself, but I think it's gonna be really good in a race.
Yeah, and I don't know the package. I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh yeah, another thing that was really cool with the package, it was a lot easier to run side by side exiting turn 2. So because of the slower end of the straightaway speed and the amount of downforce we have, you can pretty much run side by side with ease in 1 and 2. And in real life, I can't, like, the last time I kind of recall, do you remember when Chase Elliott won in 2014 in
Yes.
In the Xfinity race?
Yes, I do.
That I would say that racing at the end is kind of probably what you're going to see in the peak race. Similar horsepower, maybe a little more aero push, but like, Larson and I can't remember who else is racing up front there. It was like Larson and Elliott. Maybe it was Sadler.
Yeah, I think it was Elliott Sadler.
Yeah. They were running so close side by side in 1 and 2 and even 3 and 4. But yeah. And also because of how much momentum you have to carry, you can't run the bottom in 3 and 4. I'm sorry, but it's not going to happen anymore. You have to run the top.
Well, we'll see. Especially for the real thing. This coming Sunday. I mean, obviously Saturday they're doing Xfinity.
That should be a good race.
Yeah, I mean it always is. I mean it was absolutely awesome last year between Harvick and Chastain and them having their wreck. And I mean, honestly, Xfinity is the best series in NASCAR from a car standpoint. They have the best car for aero push. They have just enough power for momentum to matter as far as getting the power down, and it's just other than the top three dominating the series, I mean, we've been talking like the last 6 or 7 weeks about Custer and Bell and Reddick dominating, but other than that, the series has been fantastic from a pure racecraft perspective. But I digress on that. I really do think that the peak season this year has been the most successful, and you talked about it briefly, the whole NBC SN broadcast. I really think that was a huge moment for the sport, and I've heard rumors here and there that there's possibilities of them airing something or another later on, either this year or next year. But I really hope that there's a point in the year or a point in time where you guys, instead of being on YouTube or Twitch, I really hope you guys end up being on Fox or NBC. I think that would be just awesome to see.
Well, they got this upcoming Thursday. They're going to be on NBCSN again for another All-Star race. They're going to be at Rockingham, which is pretty cool.
Whoa.
Yep. Unfortunately, I won't be racing. I'm heading up to the actual Darlington. I'm leaving Wednesday, so I won't be partaking in that. But it should be a very good race. Kevin's roommate Sean loves Rockingham, and
He's probably the best driver I know. That, like, as far as like overall, he's probably the best at Rockingham, and I would definitely bet on him if he was in that race, because he's just an absolute boss at that track. That's cool they're going there. I think that's a great track.
Oh yeah, and with the downforce, because one thing that's always bothered me with Rockingham in the Cup car, whenever they go there, whenever there's an off week in iRacing, they typically try to throw this track just kind of into the schedule. And whenever I've raced there, because of the lack of downforce the last 3 years or so, it's really hard to get into the corner and really hard to get off the corner. The center of the corner, you just kind of feel like you're lollying, like you're waiting on the car forever. Almost like, a car in the 90s, you're just kind of, you're holding the wheel and hoping it turns, and you're forever off the gas. Yeah, and with this downforce, I feel like the higher lanes might come in handy, because there is a lot more banking up near that wall, and if you build up some momentum up there, you might be able to make it work.
It'd be interesting for sure. I didn't even know about that, Justin. So, shoot, I got something to do on Thursday.
Well, there's one more NBC thing. I mean, Dale Jr. said it, and how many live viewers do we have? You can cut it out if you want, Justin.
It's all right.
I mean, Dale Jr. said on his podcast last week, and then
Go for it.
Yeah, our finale will be on NBC Sports.
That's insane. Yeah, that was kind of what I was mulling at. I honestly don't know.
I knew you knew about it.
Yeah, I just heard about it I think it was from you, so a couple days ago. So,
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that it's going to be, you guys are doing it live, on a Thursday?
Yeah, our race is being moved from Tuesday at 9 Eastern. It's going to be moving to Thursday at 5 Eastern. A lot of people are, not really happy about it, just because of the, like half of us are in college, in school, and some people are very upset about that. So who knows if we'll even have a full field, but it's very exciting, and to have that full, I think it's going to be the full 2-hour time block.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. I honestly, I don't like that personally. I really wish they would give you guys the slot of leaving it at 9, because like you mentioned, people have college, people have jobs. I mean, the only real good thing about it at this point is that they have enough time to request that day off or request a certain shift, so they can race. But I mean, like you said, school matters to a lot of people, and it's really important. And unfortunately, for a lot of people, that does come first. So I mean, I hope everyone runs that can run. Hopefully, the field is a full field of 40, or at least over 35. So I mean, I think Homestead's going to be a fantastic trip. It's going to be a fantastic race. It's going to be a fantastic show with whoever the final guys are running for that championship. I think people that tune in will be in for a real treat.
Yeah, hopefully me.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, no, I hope you're up there.
Yeah, we're working on it. We got 3 races to do it, and I'm feeling pretty confident. Our setup's really good for Darlington. Just got to bide our time in the race and keep out of the wall, keep out of the wrecks, and I think I'll be up there at the end. Similar to Bristol.
Cool. Justin, what else we got on the block? I don't even know what we're supposed to be covering.
We've really gone off the cuff tonight, which is perfectly fine. I mean, I wasn't expecting to have a guest tonight, and it was really cool to have you tonight, Blake. Kind of definitely threw a wrench into my planning, but perfectly fine. The only other thing I really had was maybe talking about some Darlington throwbacks, but I mean, I know you got a Darlington throwback for tomorrow night, which is I can pull it up on the screen right here. Let me go ahead and get that.
People are telling me this is one of the unluckiest cars in NASCAR.
It is. I mean, have you seen what happens to the drivers that get in that car?
I mean, yeah, but you know, I've seen people in iRacing before run cars that are like, you know, not even front running, and then they go win the race. So I don't know. A lot of people are running really obscure paint schemes this year. No one's really running a front-running car that I could think of. Garrett Lowe's running the Davey Allison Haviline car with the chrome wheels and the chrome number.
Oh, that's cool.
I think that was Davey Allison.
Yeah.
It was the white and then the black on the back.
Yeah. You got it.
Yeah, there it is. That looks cool. Yeah, so John Dragonetti, very good friend of me and Kevin. He made that. We spent not that long on it. It's a fairly simple paint scheme. Kind of had to make it work because if you pull up the old car, it's not exact, but to make it work on the Camaro, since it's kind of a bigger car, it looks good. It looks very good. I'm glad we were able to get the numbers approved. My typical numbers, I thought I was going to have to run a yellow version, but got it to work.
No, looks great. Yeah, let's look at some of the Darlington throwbacks, because I mean, I think this year there's some really good ones. I mean, there's some really obscure ones. You got, I know. There's the actual car.
It's a little bit of a delay if you guys are watching the stream. It's about maybe a 20 to 25 second delay. So, you know, I'm doing the best I can here for you guys.
Yeah. Do what you need to do. Yeah, no, I get it.
I'm already on the Darlington throwbacks. I got Keselowski up on the screen here. He's throwing a 1996 throwback of the Rusty Miller car.
Mm-hmm. I love the red and blue on that car.
That's
really
one of my favorite. That's one of my favorite schemes, just because it's honestly one of the more unique Miller schemes. Here, let me pull up.
I like my boss's car. My boss's car reminds me. I actually don't even know the real car that's based off, but it reminds me of the late 1970s Lotus F1 team.
Yeah, it does have that feel to it. Definitely the color scheme matches. I know that's not what they were going for, but
yeah, it just looks cool.
it's gonna look pretty slick out there on the track.
Like, I sent you the link if you want to follow.
Oh, awesome, thank you.
You got Newman in the Wienermobile.
That's my favorite car. Now, obviously, it's not the same as what they're trying to portray with the whole Martin scheme, but I honestly think, man, if they drove a Toyota, if Roush was in a Toyota, that would just be perfect, because I think that would be the whole TRD racing stuff. I honestly think that's my favorite scheme.
To go back to iRacing, Zach Novak is running that car in Darlington.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
He's pretty much run every scheme that Newman's run.
Yeah, but I didn't think he was going to run the throwback, but he did. I thought that was cool. I like Hemrick's too. That's really cool. I'm not real sure that's based on either.
It's different. It definitely is.
I wonder if it has something to do with like the old logo for Caterpillar or something.
Probably.
It looks kind of like I don't think it's referencing anything besides just looking cool. Elliot's kind of got a bland one here, but still an iconic one.
He always has bland cars for these races. I don't know why. Like, every single year it seems like he has the most lackluster of the throwbacks. I mean, geez, there's so many iconic cars that he can swing to for his dad, and he picks like the most bland garbage ever. I just don't get it.
And Denny's. Did Denny run that at Sonoma or is
No,
he running?
Stenhouse ran it at Sonoma.
Oh, okay.
Denny announced it at Sonoma because it was DW's last race.
Yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, I couldn't remember who actually ran it because I think somebody else. I think one of the front row cars also ran.
Yeah, he ran something like
the same paint scheme.
I think Stenhouse ran this scheme, and then DiBenedetto ran an older scheme, and I think front row. I want to say Reagan ran a scheme as well. So it was back at Sonoma. It was the DW Fest, and we'll continue that into Darlington with Denny's scheme. But
Blake looks sick.
Yeah, I like that one. It looks really.
Reminds
clean.
me of the Indycar.
Yeah, it looks really good. It's clean and honestly, the yellow numbers or the yellow wheels. Like I hate colored wheels, but I think it works with this car really really well.
I really like what they got going on with Stuart Haas. They're
Oh yeah, it's so cool.
They're going back to all three of Tony's championships. On those three cars, you got the 2000 and 2002 scheme on Almirola. You got the 2005 scheme on Suarez, and you got the 2011 scheme on Boyer. So definitely.
I don't know what it is about the 2011 scheme on the Gen 6. It just looks weird to me. I don't know if it's because there's so much real estate on the side of the car in comparison. I don't know, but it just seems like it's so off. Like that extra red on the top where the windshield meets the netting. It's just, I don't know. What is that? The A-pillar? I don't know. It just looks off. I mean, it's cool, but I don't know.
I think what it is, Kevin, is on the Gen 6 cars, it's a lot more alive on the side of the car, like a lot.
Oh yeah, there's a lot more
molding,
curves.
lot more curves, and then on the COT it was literally just a flat board.
Yeah, that's gotta be.
Other than the quarter panels that were molded to turn to the left, it was just a flat board.
I kind of got that same vibe with Johnson's Homestead scheme last year. It didn't feel right being on a Gen 6. But
I like the Bobby Hillin tribute that Bush is running. I was hoping that eventually they would run this scheme. It's one of my favorite schemes from that era. So I mean, no more huge, at least for now, no more huge Snickers logos on that car. This actually could be the top 3 for me in terms of favorites. Then we got Truex paying homage to
himself,
which. Okay, cool, good for him.
Not even the 90s.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't follow the theme of this, but it is what it is.
Oh yeah, I mean, like every year there's supposed to be like this. Oh, it's supposed to be from the 90s, but I mean, look at Keselowski. He's run stuff from different eras than he's really supposed to. I don't know if you guys can hear that, but that's the wrath of a Puerto Rican girlfriend.
All right. Eric Jones also throwing back to himself.
Yeah, I honestly didn't like that either because personally, I think the whole point of this is for the whole nostalgia, like the whole like, oh, let me look at a Gen 6 car with like a Davey Allison scheme or a Dale Earnhardt scheme or something really notable like what Justin Haley's doing. We'll look about it in a second, but Justin Haley's bringing back a really really good Rebestis scheme, stuff like that. I really think that's what this is for. So I don't like bringing back to yourself and throwing back to yourself. I think that's kind of cheesy, but
unless you're the Wood brothers throwing back to yourself, which is always a good time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm talking about like from a driver's standpoint, like the whole Stewart thing's a little bit different because it's his team and whatnot, and of course the Wood brothers thing that's actually really cool. It's a car that I really don't have much knowledge about, so it's pretty cool.
And that car is also running the iRacing race.
Oh, is Ray running that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
is not to go back to the tangent. Is Chris running anything throwbacky?
I'm not sure.
Oh, all right. We'll find out tomorrow. Now, when this car released the City Chevrolet car, if they release this in a color chrome, I don't know if they have yet or not. If they release this in a color chrome car, finish, I'm ordering this car for my diecast wall because man, this car is so freaking hot. I love this car so much.
Yeah, and this is a car that works on the Gen 6 car.
Yeah, no, exactly. I think the next one too, the uh the Crunch throwback, was that Dale Jarrett's car? I think it works too. I mean, there's a pretty big, I mean, the quarter panel on these cars is massive, and I think that's the only thing you really can complain about. I think it looks good.
Hmm I love the trim on the white all the way around on the
Yeah.
bottom.
Yeah.
It really makes it pop.
Yeah, another
Yeah.
sharp scheme. LaJoy's had a couple of good ones over the years. This is definitely another good one. Then front row, they're all running stuff. I don't think they have TIFFs on here yet, but McDowell's got one to honor Jimmy Means.
Yeah, back when he ran the 52. That's
Yeah.
cool.
It's pretty cool. I like the color on that.
Chrome
wish-
numbers.
I mean, obviously, if they have a sponsor for Reagan, I think he has some kind of personal connection to Shriners. I'm not 100% sure on that, but it's cool to see them throw back to Pearson. That's one of the most iconic schemes in NASCAR, so how can you hate it?
Really solid.
I almost threw
Same
back
thing.
to this scheme one year.
Same thing for yeah. No, that would have been. You should have done that this year. What are you doing?
I know, I failed. I'm sorry.
Obviously this one, as far as like if they actually end up having, I know they're having a contest. This actually might win it just because of the whole Adam Petty thing. I mean, this is one of the most iconic cars just because of what could have been with Adam. It's cool to see Bubba Wallace run it. I really think this is going to be a car that is going to look a lot better on track than in the render that they gave us here. It would not surprise me if it wins the fan vote for Sunday. It's got a lot of history. They got the Victory Junction camp on there, so I mean, I think yeah, it's one of those, like, it's an ugly scheme at face value, but it's got so much history and it's got such a good like background to it as far as like the history and the tragedy and everything. I really like this scheme a lot.
I always look forward to the STP schemes that they usually bring every year, but this is a nice change of pace. Last year, I don't know if you remember or not, but they had two schemes. They had the full blue, and then they peeled off some of it, and they revealed another scheme that had the Dayglow orange on it. This is of course a little bit different in that. I like it. I definitely, one of the cars of my childhood growing up, and it was, we all know what happened with Adam. Glad to see it back on track.
What do we have next here?
Reese.
Oh yeah, he's going back to Ron Bouchard. I mean, that's
This
not a lot of
scheme
people.
works.
Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I agree. Not a lot of people know Ron Bouchard. He's a winner. What, at Talladega? He had a total upset win at Talladega. I forget what year it was, like 1982 or something like that. So that's pretty cool. I was a little anxious. I was expecting to be disappointed by Ally because man, their schemes have not really delivered this year. But I think it's really cool. I think Jimmy's the exception to the rule of what he's doing with this throwback because it's to a freaking trophy truck. I think it actually does work with the Ally. I really can't think of any other scheme that he's ever run, or and they've never really been in the sport. So I think this is the perfect idea, especially with. I do think at some point Jimmy's in his last era. I think he's close to retirement, so it's cool that he's throwing back to his trophy truck days when he was a kid. So I mean, I think this is a really cool scheme. The number, I hate the number on it. I hate the single outline look on a number. I really think they should have done something different for that. But other than that, I think the scheme is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's we knew about this a little bit earlier because of Noah Gregson on Twitter. So thank you Noah for screwing
For spoiling
that
it.
up. I don't really have much to say about Cody Ware's scheme, except that Cody still has me blocked on Twitter.
You know what it is? It throws back to Stroker Ace. I was trying to figure it out, but I think that's what the hell's that dude's name? He just died recently.
Burt Reynolds.
Burt Reynolds, yeah. It's got to be a Stroker Ace scheme. And then I actually asked you, Justin, about it when we were going to air. The Exalta scheme, I didn't know it was for Tim Richmond, but that's awesome that they're doing it because I mean Tim Richmond was a freaking wheelman in his day before he died of AIDS.
The numbers are wrong. That's my only gripe.
Oh yeah, but I mean it is what it is. I mean they're doing something. I mean it's better than doing nothing. Like I forgot who's not doing it. There's a team that's not doing. Oh, it was Todd. Not Todd. Ty Dillon's not doing one. He's running a freaking. He's like they're throwing back to the scheme they ran
at Pocono.
Yeah, it's like all right, that's just stupid. All right, move on.
It's probably because they just forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've heard sometimes. I mean, Kevin, we have a friend on the inside. I don't know if you want to say his name.
I mean, I have a few.
Short man. But
oh yeah. Gotcha.
He is showing that teams sometimes they argue on a scheme for so long that they sometimes just if they show up to the track with their regular one, it's because they couldn't decide on one or their sponsor just wouldn't approve one. And it's very likely that Geico just didn't want to do anything.
I mean, they could have done something. I mean, go back to the Mike Wallace throwback or something, anything. Just do something.
Mike Wallace would have been cool. Or Max Pappas.
Right, exactly. I mean, just anything would have been pretty dope. Whatever. I digress. Cole Clusters is pretty sweet. Throwing back to Buckshot Jones from when he had the I forget what was the Aquafresh. Yeah, the toothpaste.
Yeah.
Michael Annette's is sick. Being a Jeff Gordon fan, that's a pretty hot scheme. I think it's cool they got Baby Ruth on board for that. Let's see what else we got here. We got man, I guess Leighton has some pull. Our good friend Leighton Sabile has some pull in picking these schemes. They picked the Slim Jim scheme that what was it, Bobby Labonte ran for the 44 in Bush. So they're running that for BJ McLeod, which is, I think that's an awesome scheme. Even though it's pretty straightforward. I don't know what Allgaier is representative of for that. Sure. I have no idea. And of course Dale's Hellman's car. We'll see if he even runs in this race. Signs point to yes, but you never know with him just because of his injuries.
I think all signs are pointing towards Dale racing in this. That's at least what he's saying. He says he's got a plan B in case his back isn't feeling up to par.
I hope it's not Martin Truex Jr. I heard that as a rumor earlier this week or last week. That would be such a buzzkill. Put someone else in the damn car. Not Regan Smith. Don't put him in either.
How about it's just Dale Jr. in the car? Which it's incredible that he's even that's even an option at this point. But
or Jeffrey in the car.
I said Kerry in our group chat.
God.
I don't know. That would probably be like Bill Elliott running Road America last year.
Hey, he finished.
Well, yeah, but not.
I don't think that's what Hellman's wants. I don't think they want a 28th place finish in a JRM car.
Here's the one that Kevin's freaking out about, the Justin Haley.
I wish they used the right blue because they had a freaking it had one of those like the metal flake, like a dark metal flake blue when Burton ran it. It was awesome. I wish there was a picture of it here because man, that scheme slaps. It's such a good scheme. What else do we have here? So I noticed, I don't think it's on here, but the 15 is running a Ricky Craven Budweiser throwback, which is basically just a number font change and an all-red car. Joe Gibbs is doing the same thing, a Budweiser scheme, and that's it. It's not even. What is this? It's not
they have a line though. They have a line through the number.
Like, all right, That's the laziest throwback in the entire series. That's okay, cool.
No,
That's
that
almost
we already decided that the 13 car was the laziest throwback.
that's not even a throwback.
I would say the 19's a lazy one.
Yeah.
Because the
Well, at
logo
least there's
placement isn't
something.
even different for it. They just changed the base. That's all they did.
Well, that's better than nothing. Like, I mean, they actually changed the base on this. It's
Yeah.
just like generic Sport Clips logo, all white, no outline, no nothing, and then a white line on the side with
Yeah.
a black side skirt. All right.
Going
well,
off of this list, I bet you Bell's not running one, and he's probably going to win the race.
Probably.
It's a massive thing for some reason that the throwback cars don't win the race. It's happened so many times since they started doing it.
Keselowski won last year, though. That was
Yeah, it's.
pretty
Can you
cool.
think of any other time?
Nope.
Yeah, like
Edwards won once.
yeah.
I
And
think-
then Truex
Yep.
won in like
The
it
auto
was
owners.
auto owner's car, but it wasn't even a throwback. They just changed the gradient like the different way.
Yep.
it was like a teal, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I like this car a lot. The Tabasco Fiasco with Joey Gase.
Yeah, I recently listened to I don't know, do you guys ever listen to Dinner with Racers podcast?
No, but I did watch a video on this whole debacle, so I'm
Yeah.
sure they covered it.
Yeah, they did an episode with Todd Bodine, and he explained this entire thing. It was so funny, the whole situation. But the car, like the fact that they pretty much had a different car like every week, right?
They had Chevy and Pontiac. Like it,
Yeah.
it was just wild.
Yeah, like he would say 1 week they'd run 37th, and the next they'd run 5th.
Yep. I mean,
Yeah.
back when a team could start up and actually run competitive, man.
Yeah.
that
But
doesn't
this
happen
car,
anymore.
I'm surprised that this car is, as close to it as it is.
It looks great. I mean, I like the number. It's one of my favorite numbers as far as like just an original scheme and everything. I mean, I'm happy he's running it just because it's such a like from. I guess it's got a bad legacy, but it's one of the most awesome paint schemes to come out of the '90s. So, I mean, that's pretty sick. And then Jeremy Clements keeps the Days of Thunder scheme going. I'm curious if he had to get permission at this point to run that font from KBM, just because that shit kind of matters nowadays. Everything's licensed. I wonder.
What do you
I'm
mean
actually
that font from KBM?
well. They run the 51, and it's very much the same font. It's very similar. It's got to be damn near close to it, unless Hendrick owns it. Because I mean, Hendrick had to get it for the actual. That little what do they do? They ran like 3 or 4 cars in the actual Daytona 500.
And actually, Eric J. Smith in Peak, when he had his GoPro car for the first half of the season, he actually ran this font in a blue number.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was it might just be open license just because it's so widely used, but I don't know. I like the car. It
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
it
no,
works.
it's
Brendan Brown.
I don't know what he's throwing back to. Oh, Terry.
The cornflakes, yeah, cornflakes 14 car, man. Come on.
RC likes
Is it
that.
on the- it's Coastal Carolina. I was trying to figure out the scheme or what the sponsor was. I'm sure Naraki's gonna want this if they make a diecast out of it. Maybe not. I don't know. It's not a Quinn Hoff scheme. If Quinn Hoff was running this car, I'm sure he would have gotten it. We have a running gag, Blake, that Quinn Hoff is the greatest driver that no one knows about, and one day he'll win 50 races in Cup in 1 year.
He's the next Brett Moffitt.
Yep. And then I don't know what the hell this is.
Now that's an inside joke. Nobody actually thinks that, right?
Yes. No, I mean no. This
'Cause I
one.
was looking at his stats. He before he did a Cup race, like the max races he had in the series was like 7 in ARCA.
Well, he ran like really well. I think it was in qualifying at Bristol, and we all like jumped on the bandwagon of Quinn Hoff. He was in like the 46 or something like that, and he was actually really fast. And ever since, we've been on the bandwagon of Quinn Hoff. It's been like just a running gag for like the last 3 years.
Well, that car was very good, but I had I actually knew somebody on iRacing that was the car chief on that car. Now that team has actually left NASCAR and they actually moved to Lamborghini Super Trofeo. Like it's the same paint scheme on a Lamborghini, the black and pink.
Let's see.
Interesting.
Yeah, but that car ran very good. They bought full-on cars from RCR, I believe.
Oh wow!
Basically, what Colleague is now.
That makes sense. So yeah, that's all the throwbacks that are up on NASCAR.com. I've seen a couple more, like you mentioned, the 15 Xfinity car that's thrown back to Kenny Schrader. There have been a couple more that I've seen that aren't up on here. Also Matt Tiff's I think got announced today. So
Did you see the tweet about Ganassi's?
So they haven't announced them yet, but they're something about Craven, yeah.
I hope they got tied, because I liked when Joe Gibbs did it, but they didn't do it exactly right. And I think the 32 team did it a couple years ago.
Yeah.
But I think with the way Ganassi does their graphics, I think it would look sick on the 1 or the 42 if they were able to get tied.
I hope that they put, it'd be really cool if they put Kurt Busch in the Tide ride. And
that would be so funny.
That'd be so awesome.
I mean, there's obviously rumors that he's potentially retiring after this year. I mean, there's offers on the table for 2020, but hint, hint, nudge, nudge, it might be Chastain in that car next year.
Oh, how great would that be if Larson has the Tide ride and Kurt has his
Rubbermaid?
Or Rubbermaid, yeah.
Yeah, but he ran that last year, Yeah,
but it wasn't, like, exact.
And I'm sure it won't be exact again this year, though, Like, I don't think Sharpie's coming back into the sport.
Yeah.
It's whatever.
I've heard a couple times this season where Kurt actually pays for a logo on the car.
Yeah, he did that for Vegas.
He did it for another race, I can't remember.
Whatever that blue car was, I forget, the Daystar or whatever the hell that he did it for that race for sure. I can't remember what race it was. That's what it was. I think that was at Vegas because
it was the one that sponsors his Legend car.
Yeah, it was a local sponsor, and that kind of, in my opinion, I think that hints that he might be done after this year, but we'll see. I think that's it as far as the throwbacks go.
Yeah, I think we're coming up on the close of the show here, so we can start wrapping it up here. I'll ask you both what you guys got planned for this upcoming weekend. I know, Blake, you said you're gonna head up to Darlington to go check out the festivities this weekend in South Carolina.
Yep, and it's a bunch of us on our team. Unfortunately, Kevin and Sean aren't going, but Jordan Worth, another good friend of ours, is actually coming up, replacing Sam Watson's girlfriend. So that should be fun, and it's a big group of iRacers. So, yeah, it should be fun. Who knows what kind of antics we'll get up to.
If I'll say this, if this tropical storm Dorian or whatever the hell this thing is trying to be, if I can get out of work on Sunday, I'll come up for the race because I have Monday off as well. So, you guys, if this storm becomes a threat and we get our store closed for Sunday, I will be there 100,000%. You will see me on Sunday.
It's a lot of percent.
Other than that, I got work, so work sucks.
Yeah, it does. I got off tomorrow, which is pretty good.
I was supposed to have tomorrow off, and I got to go back for a phone deal because no commission works. You got to actually sell a bunch of phones. So
yeah, I'm glad I'm out of that business.
It is what it is.
But yeah, I think that's about it for tonight. So Blake, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was really great to have you on for the hour and a half that we did tonight. Good luck tomorrow night at Darlington. Wheeling that 30 car throwback and go get yourself a win and go get locked into Homestead. Kevin, thank you as always for all that you do. Everybody out there who is who is following along with us tonight, you can go back and watch this on Facebook, because it'll be there because we did it on Facebook. It'll also be up on YouTube at some point tomorrow, and you can catch it on our streaming services on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and on Spotify. That's all the time we have for tonight. For Blake Reynolds and for Kevin McAdams, I'm Justin Melillo. Everybody enjoy the rest of the week.
Goodbye.
See ya.